Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're here for another edition of the Ready, Set, Shag podcast, where I talk with people who I admire on the internet, people who influenced me in the past, people I look up to, and people I just generally want to get to know. And as always, my guest today is absolutely no exception to the rule, someone who I've followed along with quite a bit, someone I'm happy to call a friend. We have Gothix with us today. How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. As I said pre-show, I'm a little tired, but I think that's part of the hustle, right?
Yeah.
We gotta get ourselves tired, work ourselves down. I'm physically tired and emotionally tired because I've been hitting the gym again too. So
That's good.
yeah.
I've been slacking.
Well, we're coming up on the new year, and I like the end of the year. We're kind of like wrapping things up. I think we're trying to put a bow on the person that we are of that particular year. And then as always, we have our resolutions, and we start planning who we want to be for the rest of our lives. And I think that's kind of where I'm at, is realizing that I need to forego a lot of the things that I want to do in the moment for things that I could have later on. And I think in working out and even stretching myself a little thin with as far as work goes is part of that hustle and those sacrifices that, I might be able to reap the rewards later on.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's like the things that are actually good for us are usually not the easiest things to achieve. You got to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I tell you this as I wake up in the morning trying to go to the gym. I'm like, oh, but it's 30 degrees outside.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I get it.
Like I go through the same thing. And what I do is like yesterday I failed in like I got ready for the gym. I took my kids over to their tumbling class. Mom took them. And I was going back home, and I made every excuse not to go. And I was already dressed. And part of it was, oh, it's cold. Oh, I don't have that much time. And like today, I'm not going to fail in that, because I realized I should have just gone. Because half the trouble is you just convince yourself I don't have to go, or I can go at another time.
Mm-hmm.
But getting there, you realize, well, I'm here now. And once you start, throwing the weights up and you start getting tired, you realize this is what I'm here for, because I need to experience that pain, that struggle a little bit to get myself over that hump.
Yep. That's true.
It's hard. I mean, I'm sure you've made 1,000 excuses to not do things in your careers.
All the time. I do it every day. I shouldn't.
Well, we're here today to sort of talk about, where you've been a little bit in your life. In our previous episode, you're one of the first people on this podcast. And then at that time, you were this whole documentary that's been made was still in the works. It was undergoing some heavy editing, I'm sure. And I don't know when you guys wrapped as like shooting wise, but it's ready to premiere. You guys are premiering on Monday, right? The 18th.
Yep. It's gonna premiere Monday at the New Art Theater in Moscow, Idaho. But then it's gonna be available for everyone to watch on lore.tv on the 19th.
Oh, okay. So it's available for streaming on the 19th.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's been a long process. Graeme, he's a powerhouse with him editing, because I think he said like 2 years straight he's just been editing, and he's self-employed, so he's got like homeschooling, he's got all these other things he has to juggle on top of editing this film. And I'm just like, that's wild. But yeah, we're done. I think we shot the last scene early last year, I think. I want to say.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I was able to watch the film a little early. Thank you again for allowing me to look it over and just enjoy. I've followed along with you for a bit, and you and I have talked like heart to heart a few times. So I know a lot of the story, but there's elements of the story I didn't know, which were heartbreaking. And also the ending, like by the time the whole thing ended, I was like just, I'm not sweating, I'm not crying, I'm sweating. Graeme is fantastic at what he does. I want to sing his praises, because what he did with all that footage and time spent with you was incredible. It looks fantastic. I'm really excited to see what he does in the future. I want to follow what, his work and see what else he comes up with, because it was great.
Yeah, same. I'm gonna have to send him this after because he would love hearing that. But yeah, no, I'm so excited, and I want to see whatever other projects he has, and it's crazy because this is his first feature length film project that he's done. And it was from my understanding, it was really like just a chance that he found me online while one of his contracts was ending, or someone dropped him from a contract that he had. And then he was like, the next project I want to make, it has to matter. And then he finds me, and then I ignore him a couple of times because I'm like, I don't want no weirdo to make a movie about me. That's weird. But yeah, the way that he put everything together, I'm like, you just have an eye for this stuff. So
it's so clear from just the opening credits to the very last shot that he knows what he's doing and he's got a good grip on this. And for that reason alone, I think people need to experience this film, because it's like just good artistic filmmaking at its very basic. But I mean, more importantly, this, your story, sharing your story about how these online groups, they present themselves as this haven for equality and uplifting voices, minority voices. And then just as quickly, if not quicker, disparaging you when you don't sort of fall in that line. And you've talked about this at length.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to kind of start with was, how did Graeme approach you about this stuff, and what was it? I mean, you kind of went into it a little bit, but what were the first feelings you had when he approached you about it?
Yeah, so when he initially approached me, I had gotten canceled for the Ariel comment. And then I had already started to get backlash because I was seeing all the social justice, George Floyd things going on. I'm like, something ain't right with this. So I still had a target on my back, essentially. So I'm sort of going through this moment, and I have like this wall up where I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone because everyone's coming at me from all sides. And then I get this email from this guy saying, I want to make a film about you. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know this person. This is weird.
Yeah.
And so eventually he was very persistent, and eventually I agreed to do a Zoom call with him. And the moment I realized that he is someone I can trust is when his family came to say hi to him in the middle of the Zoom call, and I just see his wife and his kids come in the background. I'm like, okay, he's normal. He's all right.
Yeah.
And so after that, I agreed to have him film, and I think it was like maybe 2 weeks out, he flew to Rhode Island, and yeah, the rest is history. And he's a really good friend, and he's opened my eyes to a lot of things that I wonder if I would have ever discovered if I just kept sending his email to spam.
So when did shooting first begin with this? When was that?
That I actually don't remember. It's been a blur, man. The last couple of years, like the dates, they're just a blur to me.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because as I'm watching all of this happen, I was realizing, putting all these events in sequential order, it made me realize time is once it goes past, it becomes really fuzzy, and it's all over the place. Because there were moments I thought happened before that actually happened after, and even realizing that I was a little bit later to discovering you. I think by the time I discovered you, you were it was just before your Ariel comments. Maybe it was but I thought I had been following much longer, because I remember watching a lot of your skits.
Yeah.
With the camera, the funny squishy face.
That's OG goth right there.
Yeah. But I do remember Gothix model. I remember that name. So, but no, that's what are some of the things that Graeme really I guess how did he surprise you in showing you things that you weren't?
Oh yeah, his kindness, I think, was the number one thing. Just encountering someone that genuinely cared about a complete stranger was just so foreign to me. Because especially like if we're talking about cancel culture, as you mentioned, you got these people that have this safe haven online. We're all good, social justice, whatever. It's all a facade, and these people don't actually care. I would argue they care more about themselves, just posturing themselves as this, holier than thou, figure.
Yeah.
And then I also, not only was it the kindness, but it was his willingness to listen to me. There were times where we weren't recording and we would just be, he would have a cigar outside and I would be getting high out of my mind, sitting on the sidewalk, just having discussions. And he was just so willing to listen. And I think at the very beginning, I wasn't aware that he was a Christian or anything. I sort of figured that out later on. Okay. But initially, I'm thinking to myself, this guy's just very nice. And then when I found out he was a Christian, I'm like, okay, now my brain is broken because this is not the type of encounter that I was expecting to have with someone of this particular worldview. Okay. And this is based on the people that I've encountered, other Christians I've encountered, and other people who call themselves good people. I wasn't used to engaging with people who genuinely cared about strangers, and it wasn't for some ulterior motive.
So your meeting with Graeme was prior to you sort of discovering Christianity and really giving yourself over to it. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I would say, well, it seems that I know Saul is your, I'm sorry, I don't mean to dox his name, but I know your husband has been a big proponent in your faith, but would you say that Graeme was another person who was probably a big influence on that?
Probably the main one. Because he shared the gospel to myself and my husband, and my husband was definitely, he became a believer before I did. Mm-hmm. He was more open to it, and I was just so, I don't need that. I'm just gonna do my own thing. So, but yeah, and that's one of the things that I think about is Graeme opened my eyes to how the people I was surrounding myself with, it's just it wasn't normal in the way that people interact with one another. Mm-hmm. And especially when it came to the whole, Christianity thing, I just had this image of what that meant, and he showed me otherwise. And so if it wasn't for him reaching out to me and us agreeing to do the documentary, I wonder, like, would I still be depressed? Like, would I, you know what I mean? Like, what would my life look like if I was on that same trajectory? Like, what would I be doing?
Yeah, no, it's something that, well, from following him on Twitter, so I follow him on Twitter, and he's not overly active on there or anything, but when he does, I never really got the feeling like, oh, this is a guy who's like, it's not like he wears his faith on his sleeve, which I think some people do, and that could sometimes be a turnoff for people. Like, oh, I get it. And like for me, I live in a very religious area of the country. Like Mormons are everywhere, and they are people who generally wear their faith on their sleeve. It's just everything they do is because of that. But I never really got that from Graeme either. It's like it's not something that I feel like he's just outwardly about, but it seems like with you, it's something that he was able to share, and you guys were able to find sort of a bond there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's definitely like, I don't think he's out with it in terms of like publicizing it all the time on social media, because as you said, he's not really on social media all that much. I want to get to that level. I would like to delete social media, but I kind of need it. But like, no, he is very open. But I think in the way he does it, he relies on wisdom from the Lord to guide him into conversations. Because when I asked him, like, how did you, because this is something that I find very fascinating now that I'm a believer. I like to engage with atheists. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, like, how did you even get to that point of getting me to be receptive? And he was like, I was praying for wisdom the whole time, praying for wisdom constantly. And I think that is key here, because I think for a lot of people, we just want to get someone to the finish line, and we don't really know how to navigate the conversation. And it's like, part of the way that he was talking to me was seeing how depressed I was. And instead of him saying, "You're depressed, have you thought about Jesus Christ?" It's like, that doesn't mean anything to someone that doesn't know what that means. So you kind of got to work your way into that conversation and figure out how to navigate it to get someone to the point where they're actually listening to you. You have to get them to recognize that you actually care about them before they will care about the message you're delivering. This is why a lot of people, and I'm one of this, like, I realize that facts don't necessarily matter to people. They don't matter. They'll make their own facts, their own reality, right?
Yeah.
And until they recognize that you care about them, they don't care about what you have to say.
I like
So
that.
yeah, that's he uses discernment. He's very slow paced. Me, on the other hand, I'm still trying to figure out what my sweet spot is because I recognize there's a lot of people, especially from my old days on Twitch. They see the hair, they see the tats. They're just like, "Yo, this girl is dope." They hear Jesus, they're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." So you got that one aspect, and then on the other side of it, it's like I can't unsee what I've learned since coming to Christ. It's like a veil was lifted and I see all the problems in the world. I'm like, bro, this is how you fix it. So it's like, do I tiptoe and allow the loudmouths to control the conversation with all of their wokeness? You know, because if I had to say, that's how we got ourselves in this mess, is we were just, I don't want to tiptoe on anyone. So I'm in this really weird spot where I'm like, am I loud? Am I bold? Or am I just like chill?
Yeah. Well, what do you think you want the message to be when people sit down and watch your documentary or Graham's documentary on you? What is it that you want people to take away from that at the end of the day? Because it seemed, and if I can just give my 2 cents on it, it almost seems to me like you want people to realize that you can walk the path with them, or like it's your way of kind of letting people know that you're there as someone who understands their plight and understands that this is something that we can go through as people of faith, and discovering these new pieces of us to overcome who we were and to be who we are for the rest of our lives, or for that next phase. That's kind of what I took away from it, and probably why by the end I had gotten emotional. I mean, one, because you were emotional during it, but because I felt like this was a real thing. Like, I could feel your emotions, and I could feel your happiness, but also the melancholy that may have still been present, from those really, really difficult times.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good takeaway, I would say that. And also, I think for me personally, this whole process of getting canceled and ending up where I am now, the main thing that I have taken away from this journey is recognizing that everyone believes in something and they build their life on something. And before I got canceled, my life was built on Twitch. My whole thing, all of my goals, how many subscribers can I get? Can I get on this podcast? Can I get this sponsorship? It's like, that was what I lived for. And then when that got taken away from me, I was like, what do I do here? And so in order for me to maintain the thing that was essentially giving me life, my platform, I had moments where I'm like, maybe I can compromise. Maybe I can tiptoe around this to keep my audience, and, don't want to lose my audience. And if I look at the bigger picture of cancel culture, I suspect that's why a lot of people allow themselves to be canceled. And despite getting harassed and people reaching out to your job or your sponsors, that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between succumbing to that and overcoming that. And the people who allow it to happen, I think these people, it's like they have treated this platform or their career as an idol, and they're living for something that can just get taken away at any moment.
Yeah.
And with me now, it's like I lose subscribers all the time. People make videos about me all the time, and I'm like, all right, that's not giving me life.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that is a great point, and I think I've even come to a spot in my content creation career where I find myself tiptoeing around my own opinions on things because I don't want people to leave. Just as you said, like I become captured by my audience because that is whatever lifeblood I have. When it's a lie. I mean, yes, the people in the chat and the people who are subscribed to the channel and who super chat and all that stuff, like they keep this going moving forward. But if I become completely captured by the audience and not stay true to what I believe, there's plenty of stuff that I see now on the side of on my side or our side that I think you're way out of line, and I don't, like this isn't right, and I want to speak up against it, and occasionally I do, but I try but again, I'm tiptoeing around it. I'm not actually calling something out the way I might call out something I really hate, and that's not fair to who I am. And it's hard though. It's a difficult place to be because you don't want to alienate the people who brought you to where you are, but you also don't want to be untrue to who you are.
Yeah. Let me give you a different perspective.
Please.
Well, first of all, in the realm of content creation, it's always a revolving door. You're one opinion away from someone unsubscribing.
Yeah.
But is it them that got you to where you are? Like think about that for a second. Is it really them who got you there? Right. So and this is something that I've been very vocal about too, especially when it comes to like people taking the red pill and they thinking that the red pill is their paradise and everyone's going to be kumbaya on the right. And I'm like, boo boo, you are sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
And there is division on the left, and there's division on the right. And when you get to the right, I understand that the fear about speaking out because you don't want to burn bridges with people who are seemingly on your side. But I think the bigger thing we have to remember is we're not all on the same side. Like from the secular perspective, the strictly like red pill, patriotism perspective, sure. But we're all following something. We're all trying to build our life on some particular thing, and what I'm building my life on is different from what other people are building their life on. So inevitably you're going to get even people on your same side clashing with each other because everyone has their own opinions about how we're supposed to approach a particular thing. And I've upset a lot of people, but I am so open. Like I'll never cut someone out of my life because they disagree with me. That's if I were to do that, I would be alone. But and so the people who say, you know what, you have this opinion, I can't stand for it, Gothix. All right, I'll let you go. I love you enough to let you go. Hopefully someday we can talk again, but I'll be here.
I think that's a really great thing because you saying that, like, you're at a point in your life where you're not going to cut someone out of your life, completely because of a disagreement. Now, I think there's definitely lines that we do draw. I think there is a line that could cause me to cut someone out completely. But in the documentary, you do talk about you talk about you and Starsan and how you had basically like stepped when you realized that she was a Trump voter. You're like, no.
Yes.
and this was prior to your to your awakening. See, it was probably like right on the cusp where you're starting to learn all this stuff. But it seems like that's a very, like, as you get older, you start to understand the value of forgiveness. And what I've learned is the problem with learning about forgiveness is once you realize that forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about you. Like when you offer someone forgiveness, you're taking that punishment on yourself. You're not letting them suffer any sort of consequences to you. Like you are punished. It's not punishment, but you are accepting that. I can't even think of the word right now, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like you're taking that on, that burden on of, okay, well, they did something to hurt me, but I'm not going to let that define our whole relationship, because we all make mistakes. We all, make knee-jerk reactions.
Right.
But it's interesting. And I think if people had this mentality when they were younger, I think we'd see a much different picture today. But I think we're told, now we're being told that we just got to cut things out of our life. You don't like it, get rid of it. You don't like your dad, F him. You don't like the, the gender you were assigned at birth, cut that shit out. Like it's very weird. We're in a very weird time now.
Yeah.
Like everything is disposable. We got to deconstruct everything. But that's too easy. And I think going through the journey like you and seeing it on screen and understanding it much better, you learn that you need a solution for everything, because a solution that I'm not going to spoil it for people, but you get to an emotional place, you think the only escape is this one thing, and you forget about all of it. But that's too easy. Moving forward, being someone better than you were yesterday, or learning to deal with those really difficult people and obstacles, is what grows you and allows you to experience or to have better experiences. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're totally right. We have this culture where it's like, this isn't working, cut them out. You look at the divorce rates in particular, it's like, whoa. it's like people aren't working to try and resolve their problems. They'd rather just dump this person and get a new one, just an easy, quick replacement. And it's like, you can't keep running away from problems, number one. And number two, if you just keep canceling people out of your life because of the disagreements you have, you're going to be alone, because what you're asking for is a utopia that doesn't exist, where everything is going to be smooth sailings all the time. There's never going to be disagreements. That place doesn't exist. You're going to have trouble in this world. The only question is, how are you going to navigate that trouble? And with me and the forgiveness thing, it's like sometimes people have to go through it themselves to realize that, wow, I thought I was a good person for the way that I was acting. Really, I was not. It's sometimes you have to go through that, get that rude awakening, and I know it's difficult for some people, even if there are people that I wouldn't call my friends. We don't talk, but they'll trash me online. I forgive these people. And that is a very difficult concept for people to grasp. Like, but what does that say about me when I did terrible things to people that I actually cared about, and they were humble enough to offer me forgiveness? So why can't I do it for somebody else?
Yeah, I thought that's like the very same thought I have a lot of times when, like, I'm a very forgiving person, to the point where it's probably ruined like good relationships I have with people, because I have been offered so many chances in my life to redeem myself by people I love and by strangers, people I've met briefly. And them offering the forgiveness to me, and they might not fully trust me, but they still kept me in orbit. And I thought, if someone's willing to do that for me, at the very least, I need to offer that to other people, because no one's ever done anything that I felt they really needed to cut them out of my life. Like, no one's ever engaged in like trying to physically harm me that I know, like there's very few things that I think people need to be completely cut out of your life for. And saying things on the internet is probably the least of my worries. If someone says like, oh, you're a shill, or you're this, or it's like, oh, okay, if that's what you want to believe, then you don't know anything about me. I'm actually a pretty open person.
Were you called a shill?
Not yet. I've been called a few things, because I defended Eric July and his comics and stuff like that.
You can't do that.
Yeah. Can't uplift a hardworking black man in 2023. We got to tear them down. Yeah, but I have to, and really what I end up doing is I just ignore them out of existence, because what I've realized about, especially people online, and this is kind of true for people in real life too, is these trolls, they act like they're like a flame, fire. The only way you give fire life is to give it air. And trolls online, and every word, every reply you give them, every retweet you give them, gives them life. That is what they're there for. They're there for your engagement, to see that they're affecting you. And because of that, I 9 times out of 10, I won't engage them, because I know they're waiting by their keyboard, because the only thing they can do is wait for your response and then quote tweet you again and say, see, conservative chud mad. Boo. And it's like, okay, like.
Yeah, I think that's a good position to take, good route to take. Just like, if I were to respond to every single weird trollish comment, this would be my full-time job, just like arguing with people on social media. It's not worth it. Now, I would make the exception that, hey, would you like to have a cup of coffee, talk it out? I know they're not going to say yes, but the offer still stands, because people act very different on the internet. I think I'm pretty consistent, with the exception of maybe I'm a little bit more quiet around people that I don't know. Yeah. But like, my opinions are going to be the same. I'm going to treat you with respect. But that can't be said about a lot of these people that just get so excited throwing doo-doo at random people online. Yeah.
I've said recently, I actually just thought of this. I've said it before, but I've seriously considered it for the future, is just, I would love to have a show like that was in person with someone that I did not agree with. Because as you said, most of these people who like act so tough and, with their chest puffed out on Twitter, whatever that may mean, like if you got them face to face, one-on-one, having a cup of coffee, they're probably like halfway decent people. You might be different, like ideologically, but I think they would still give you the time of day. And I've heard as much about like Destiny, that he is someone like, he's a really fast talker, really far, very progressive, but in person, like, he's just a normal guy, and he would, he's had dinner with people that I know, and he's just, he just talks like a normal person.
Yeah, I met him once. I didn't really talk much, but he seemed nice, despite everything going on online. And it's funny, because I thought the same thing. I would love to have a studio setting where we can just record and come and have a conversation, because I think a lot of people, like I said earlier, they don't care about facts. They have this idea about you in their head, and until you can, show them that you're not the crazy person that they think you are online, they're not going to care. So you have to show them that you care, try to make friends with them. It's essentially a way of disarming them.
Yeah.
And then you can have a conversation, because I don't know where this came from, but there seems to be this idea that you are mortal enemies with someone if you have a difference of opinion. And that's wrong. It's so wrong. And that's one of the things that Graeme showed me, is we disagreed on a lot of stuff. And I'm like, this guy's not yelling at me. Like, what? Yell at me,
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I had an interview recently, actually, with a Ripaverse detractor, Vito, and people were not happy with me for having it. I've had like people who are like who I thought were friends, like, kind of be snotty about me having this guy on and talking to him, and I was like, well, first of all, I don't really have any skin in the game. Like, I'm a supporter of his, but like, I'm not his payroll. Like, I'm not his like brother. I'm not him. So like, why can't I engage this person? I said, if anything, we need more of these conversations, trying to understand who this person is, because everyone has painted the picture of this person based on information they just kind of gather. And it might be, some of it's wrong, some of it's like a stretch of the truth, and some of it is the truth. But I know that I wouldn't want someone misrepresenting who I was. So why not sit down with this person who people just despise and really get to know who they are? Because I'm a neutral third party. I don't have skin in the game. So me talking to this person actually might help lower their guard because they don't feel like they have to like, have swords up or whatever. And because, at the end of the day, who am I? I just want to talk to people and get to know them. I don't want to gotcha anybody.
Yeah.
But I also want to be fair and press people where I can. Because again, I'm not someone who I'm more interested in who the human being is behind it. Like, let me understand the humanity behind you. Because again, as you said, even some of our like biggest distractors, they're human at the end of the day, and they're not really our mortal enemies. We would probably, if we didn't know any better, we'd probably just sit down with them and have a cup of coffee. It's because at the end of the day, I think you and I can agree that we have more in common than we do different a lot of times. That's not always true, but people you come across, especially on the internet space, like if you're a gamer, you're probably gonna have a lot of common with them. So finding ways to bridge the gap or reach across the aisle, I think is the only way through it all. And it's one of the things it's made me second guess like where I am with my faith, because again, watching your documentary and then what I know about what I believe, I'm just like, maybe I just got to give in to something at some point and lean into it. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but the more I talk to people like you, and it sounds like Graeme, like those are the kind of people I want to be around.
Yeah. That's a good place to be. And I would say, not necessarily giving in to something. It's more of surrendering, because I think it's a constant battlefield of our minds where we are trying to navigate life by leaning on our own understanding of how we're supposed to live our lives, which is what you see a lot of these social justice lunatics online doing. Is that they're taking matters into their own hands and they're trying to do it without God. And you can't do it. You might get successful for a little bit, but eventually it's all going to crumble, as it did with me when the thing I was living for got stripped from me. I'm like, what do I do now? So I would encourage you, keep leaning into it. And if you don't know what it is, I tell people, if you are seeking truth, or more specifically, if you're seeking God with all your heart and your soul, you're going to find him. Some people are just shut off to that because they got a good life. Why do I got to find God for? I don't need God. I got everything that I want. Right. So, yeah, just keep seeking, man.
Do you think that, do you think that finding God was the purpose that you were looking for in your life? Or do you think your purpose lies elsewhere?
It was definitely my purpose.
Yeah.
I think, and this is a very controversial, upsetting statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. There is no meaning, a true ultimate meaning of life without God. We can apply meaning to our lives arbitrarily. My family gives me meaning, my job, my ambitions, but these aren't the objective, ultimate meaning of life, because these things can be gone tomorrow. Then what? Where's your meaning? You can't take God away from me. He's there. And then when I die, I'm going to have more of him. So it's, and then in hindsight, if I think back throughout my life, even beyond me streaming, and I consider all of my low points, the fights I've had with my family, my friends, all of these times where my mental health got the best of me, right? It's like, what was missing in these circumstances? And what I've come to realize is that every single person on this planet, whether they want to admit it or not, have a spiritual hole that they're trying to fill. God belongs in that hole. And if you don't believe in God, you're going to put something else there. For me, it was Twitch. Sometimes it was boyfriends, people I was dating, my job. And again, these are circumstances. These are things that can be gone tomorrow. So then what?
Yeah, the filling, like, I don't want to say it out loud to be clipped out of context, but filling holes with things that are material. I got you.
As I said it, I'm like, you know what? I feel like I should have used a different word, but let's just go with it.
Well, no, it's something that I realize, like, I mean, again, I don't put God really anywhere in the hierarchy right now, because he's just sort of like on the sideline, and I acknowledge that he's there. Because right now, where I am at is like my wife and my kids, like those are my driving purpose in life, is to provide them with the knowledge to do better than I did, and live symbiotically with my wife to create a really good life for the kids. And like that's where I am with the whole thing. And but I think understanding that material things aren't, they can be taken away like that. But the experiences with my two little ones and my wife, those experiences I can't ever redo. I have one chance to do these things with them. And in a lot of ways, that's enough for me, because I see whatever God may be in their eyes. You know, I see a miracle, especially with my younger boy. I think I've told you the story. He was born 15 weeks early. He's at 25 weeks. He was born. He's in the NICU for 4 months. And now he is a perfectly healthy, loving, polite, athletic boy. And so I see that, again, for lack of a better term, light of God shining through them every day. When I see their eyes smile with happiness, I think that's the point right there. A happy individual, or one that will be their own individual. But I think people are lacking even understanding what purpose is anymore. And I think the internet, in some regards, has robbed that from us, because, well, the internet and also technology, our life just got easier. It gets easier over and over, right? But because of that, we don't know what we're really supposed to do today, tomorrow, the next day. When we were fighting for our lives, when diarrhea could take us out 80 years ago, we could barely find clean water. I know.
What type of timeline are we talking here? What did I miss?
Well, I'm just saying, like, our life is so easy now. We don't fear anything. When's the last time you woke up and thought, I might die today? I don't think, probably never. Well, I mean, never.
I mean, I disagree. The Just Stop Oil protesters, they seem to think the world's going to end. So,
yeah, true.
yeah, I mean, I think, well, first of all, taking care of your family, that's a good thing. And I'm glad that you're doing that, because not a lot of people do that. That's how God wanted families to operate.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's great, and there's truth to that you can see God through the eyes of your kid. And again, I would encourage you, lean into it more, because it's like your journey taking care of your family, it's better with God than without. Like, you think it's good now, imagine with God. It's good.
Yeah, and I see the man, the myth, the legend himself, Graeme Wilson, is in chat right now. For those who can't see and are not here for the live show and are listening on Spotify, Graeme Wilson is the producer, director, editor of the Gothix documentary, which is coming out. It's being premiered on the 18th of December in Moscow, Idaho. Where is it again?
The New Art Theater.
New Art Theater. And then it'll be available on streaming on the 19th on lore.tv, correct?
Lore.tv, use code Gothix.
Yes. Let's see. Lore. I'll put it in the chat so people can see it.
Thank you, good sir. Yeah, we were talking junk about you, Graeme. Don't be alarmed.
I was singing your praises.
That is true. He was singing a lot of praises about your filmmaking work.
Yeah, I do want people to know that I have had a chance to see this film ahead of time. Very blessed to have been allowed to do so. It is absolutely fantastic. Graeme as a filmmaker is truly gifted. You need to check out his stuff. I look forward to seeing more of what you're capable of, man. It was really, really beautiful. Again, like I think the message behind it, well, let me put it this way. the film never seemed self-indulgent at all, which I think a lot of times documentaries can get a little out of hand with how people like gas themselves up a little bit. And I did not find that at all. And maybe I might be a little biased because I know you, but I did not get the feeling at all that this was about making you into this like awesome, like, look at me, all this very prideful picture. It was very much done in a tasteful, artistic way. So it was really, really good.
I really appreciate you saying that too, because it's so funny. When we started filming, I didn't tell Graeme this, but when we started filming, I'm like, yeah, we're going to get back at these people for all the mean things they said. Mm-hmm. And then once I was saved, I'm like, I have a documentary coming out about me. This is weird. Like I got to tell people. I mean, I'm not saying that I have this film because I'm a narcissist, like, but you should watch it. It's like weird.
Yeah. No, and this film does not do that. I mean, there's people actually in the movie that you reference because of when you guys were talking about the cookout, mm-hmm. I recognize some of the people in there from the old days of Twitch, and even then I was just like, well, I mean, this is it, and I don't think anything necessarily was that like the frames that were being used were just them saying like, this is what the cookout is, blah 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 mm-hmm. blah. It wasn't anything like it wasn't footage of them saying anything bad about you. Mm-hmm. But it was still, like I said, it was just a tastefully done movie to illustrate what some of these online communities are capable of. Yeah. I think is the best way to put it. And they're not often the inclusive places they pretend to be. But I think it's a good lesson for people to learn that you shouldn't rely on others to prop you up and to push you forward. A lot of this stuff, I mean, I know some of my biggest strides forward on this platform have been things that I've done on my own and not necessarily in conjunction with someone else. The doors opened because I said, fuck it. I'm going to try and do this interview, or I'm going to reach out to this person. And I actually had someone reach back out to me who is like, they're pretty big, or at least they're involved with someone very big. And it like the chances of having them on my small show, like, it goes up because I got a response. I never thought that this person, which I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to spoil it, but taking chances on yourselves and being able to operate outside of the group is sometimes the best move forward, and not relying on this group or that group to hoist you up. Because I think then they're gassing up your numbers in order to, and then when you do finally make it, no one's around to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Relatable.
Yeah.
It's a constant struggle. Even with the platform that I have now, a lot of people saw my growth and they were just like, don't let the fame get to your head, and this is valid too. Like, I don't think that way, but you can see how people's minds shift once they start getting a little bit of attention from people, if they think that their success will come from other people. And that's one of the things about these like online communities, especially if the idea is we're all going to support each other. It's like, well, that's not like that. Do you like my content? Okay, then share my content. But us blindly supporting each other just because of some weird attribute that we share, like, right, that seems a little bit backwards.
Yeah. Do you find now, like, now that you've made a good name for yourself on YouTube and in political spaces online, do you find yourself ever feeling like you're might be heading towards another like mutiny within your community, or do you feel like now you're in a spot where you've cultivated a space that's, I don't want to say safe because there's no such thing, but do you feel that you've been honest enough to your audience where you could say pretty much anything and they're right there with you and they understand who you are?
No, not entirely. I think the level of backlash that I would normally get has definitely subsided a lot. Like, yeah. I think I've been, and this is something that if I can encourage other people who are sort of like in this space of like tiptoeing around certain conversations, but they're a public figure, it's like sometimes the best thing to do, with the assumption that you are on the side of truth and not just going with the culture, is to just speak your mind and be upfront about it, because at least people know what they're going to get right out the gate. They may hate you for it, but that's going to attract other people into your circle. So I definitely have a lot less pushback, but it's not gone entirely. And honestly, if the pushback was gone altogether, I would be concerned, because then I'm essentially speaking to an audience that already agrees with me, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like I want to attract the attention of people who disagree, to give them a different perspective, because that's what I think God gave me my platform for. Like, I was dancing with Snapchat filters and maracas back in the day, just doing this blind content. It was fun, but I'm actually changing people's minds about really serious, deep topics that I wouldn't want to just make content for someone who's already on the same page, because what good is that?
Yeah, and you said it earlier that understanding content as your audience as a revolving door. I've said this recently, in realizing that a lot of my message is get offline, be involved in your real life. And with that comes like people leaving and new people hopefully coming in, because I think a lot of the answers lie outside of this. It's, the irony is I want people to listen to this and be online, but when it's done, I want you to unplug, and I want you to be involved with your family, with your home, with your pets, with your friends, your community. That's where you're going to instill the most change.
Yeah.
Being there for them and creating a good, happy environment for them will show, especially young kids, that this is what's important. And then they can pass that on to their kids and their friends.
Yeah.
It's hard, because the point becomes, don't stay here. Take what you like and go pass it on to someone else. Get away from this, because this isn't all that's important in life. I don't know. That's kind of where I've come, and I don't know if it's good or bad that I'm thinking that way. Maybe I should try and change that, but I do want people to be involved with their families and lives, and not get stuck online and think this is the absolute worst time in life. I had one of the discussion we had last night that kept me up till 2 a.m. was about not how dark the world is, but how much light there actually is in the world. And one of the problems is that we are shown 24 hours a day all the shitty things in the world. Twitter is just this, like, it's like if you could make cancer into a living thing, that's what Twitter is. And it's meant to infect you every day. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. There's no escape. There's no escape. Black pills, black pills, black pills. But when you look around in your life, when you see the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, they're happy. They're good people. The sun came up. You are healthy. Your husband's healthy. You have a place to live. You're married. You know what I mean? Like, all these things, you have a roof over your head. You have food in the pantry. All of those things are huge wins that you have over many other people. And to that, we have to realize, like, we do have it good. The world is a good place, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about and understand the things that are bad.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, and I've definitely been guilty of sinking way too much time in social media. And it's like, not even from the philosophical standpoint of you getting out and experiencing and enjoying your life, but from the scientific perspective, there's so many studies that have been done on what extreme social media usage does to your brain. And you get more depressed, you get more anxious, you get more doom and gloom, because as you said, everything is just amplified, and you're hyper fixating on a small thing that's happening in the world, and you thinking that experience is the reality for everyone 24/7, and it's not. So yes, be informed. Yes, have conversations. Yes, engage. And, if you see evil happening, you can do something about it. Run for public office, become a content creator, influence people with your platforms, whatever the case may be. Get involved, but also don't allow it to consume you, which I think is what people get into the habit of doing. And I also have to clarify, because I mentioned like making content, that's a way to help, but some people will just make content to complain and be shocked at the state of the world. It's like it's all over YouTube. Did you see what happened in this news story? And it's like, yes, we get it, the world has fallen. Like this
Right.
this has been happening for years. This isn't something that started happening in 2020.
Right.
So you have to live your life, and you have to recognize the things you can control, and then the things you have to give up to God, and realize that not every single thing needs to have your attention at every single moment, because you still have responsibilities. You still got your life to live.
Yeah. Do you think for people who are new to content creation, or who are thinking of doing it, do you believe that it's healthy to take time away at certain points during that journey? Or do you think it's better to just push through and grind it all out?
No, I think they should definitely take breaks. Otherwise, I mean, I think most people experience burnout at some point.
Mm.
Regardless of what status you are on the content creation level, but you gotta take breaks. And what I am trying to do, because like I said, my journey right now and with my content, I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I have no idea. But at minimum, I set a time of when I want to be in my studio. And then, so I set it at the same time my husband starts working. And then when he's done, I'm out. The exceptions will be if someone wants me on a show and they're in a different time zone, I'll do that as like a one-off thing.
Yeah.
But I'm out of this room. And some people, and I've been guilty of this, will stream or push out content every single day, go to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, get 2 hours of sleep, neglect their family, neglect their health, just for the sake of making it. And again, these things can come and go. Your platform can get deleted. You can get canceled. What then? It's not worth it.
Right. Ruin Leon's in the chat. He wants to know where you keep your ketchup.
In the pantry.
Blasphemy. You guys need to refrigerate after
bro,
opening.
it's that you can't get hot fries with cold ketchup.
Yes, you can, because then the fries aren't scorching hot. You dip it in the cold ketchup.
I want it to burn.
Oh man. I want to ask you about, I mean, your answer might be obvious, but have you been on Twitch at all recently?
I've seen some things, but I have not streamed really, except for today. I dual streamed, but yeah.
What do you think of the new changes that they're making to the the artistic nudity that is now allowed on the platform, or is officially allowed on the platform?
I mean, is anyone really surprised? Because I'm not surprised. I think the thing that I really think about is, wow, I used to really love this platform. This was my life force. This was my idol. I loved Twitch. I worshipped the gods of Twitch partnership badge. And now I'm like, yo, they're literally pushing the Overton window little by little, seeing what they can get the Twitch audience to accept over time. And it's honestly, I think a big part of it started with introducing the just chatting category, because just chatting means you can just talk. Okay. Well, now you can talk with a little bit less clothes. and now you can talk in a jacuzzi. You can suck on your microphone. Oh, now artistic nudity? How far do you want to go with this? All while the platform is for ages 13 and up. It's like they know what they're doing, and it's kind of sick. And for as much as a lot of people on the Twitch platform likes to pretend that they are on the good side, because there's a lot of like social justice on that platform. But for as much as they talk about that, you would think these people would say, you know what? I don't think I want to support this company anymore, because that's kind of sick. It's leading towards a category of like, I don't want to get you banned, but ages 13 and up, half naked women. I mean, you two and two, put two and two together.
Right. Oh, it's, it's the libertarian in me says like, if you make your money how you want, but I think Twitch as a platform needs to decide what it is as a platform. Like, are you for gaming? Are you like, and I almost think like, I guess you could pull this off, but like rebrand or build out another, Twitch. Like, I think I've said this with you before, Twitch After Dark, like if you need a separate venue for it, do it. Cause again, if these women want to turn themselves into objects and sell their bodies and make boatloads of money doing it, fine. But hey, understand what it is that you're getting into, first of all, and don't expect people to respect you for doing so. And I think it's a function of where we are as a culture that we think, I mean, I know, was it prostitution's the oldest profession in the world or whatever people say.
I wouldn't call it a profession, but
right. No, I'm there with you. But it doesn't mean that it's something that we should be uplifting as a means for young women to like, this is what we should do. This is empowering, that becomes the message, is that this is an empowering thing for these young women to do. Is that really the message that this company wants to provide to people? Seems that's where it is, but I don't know. Do you think it, like, how do we move past this? How do we convince young men and women to not invest their time in stuff like this? What do you think is the antidote for it?
God. or some people will say, purely out of self-will. Okay, fine, try it. But God, because if these women men wouldn't be able to make the money that they're making showing off their bodies if there wasn't a demand for it. Yeah. So why is there a demand for it? It's because the people who are buying this stuff lack self-control and they're always lusting, which lust is a sin. Okay? So This is why I say you need God to see that lusting is a sin. Okay? Now, this is also why when you don't have God, you lack a standard to start from. So your standard becomes the standard of the world. So what you said about, if Twitch wants to do this, that's their right. I'm not going to promote it, whatever. Logical. But also it's like I think this is where it comes down to every platform has to start from a standard. And if you're saying that this is the standard of 13 and up can make an account, then you have to be consistent with that standard. They're not going to make an adult website because they're not going to make money over there. Why? Because the adult industry is saturated. Yeah. So what does that tell you? You have to go onto a platform where there's kids on to make that content in order for you to pay your rent. That's sick. Yeah. So, for me, if I was somehow the owner of Twitch, I would ban all of that. Hot tub streams, out. ASMR, bye. If you're not playing a game and you got your pepperoni showing, you're not on the platform. And that would upset some people, but guess what? You have to start with a standard. The moment you remove that standard because of its kindness or its empathy or whatever other nonsense label you want to use to justify it, the moment you remove that, you're opening up the floodgates to a lot of other problems. So you have to. And if people don't like it, they can go to a different platform. It's like when I don't look at social media in public anymore, because there were times where I would literally be on Twitter and I just see booty cheeks on my timeline. And I'm like, well, what is this? I used to be able to just check my Twitter without seeing this, and it's sick. So I'm not going to force you to not do something, but we're not going to pretend that there isn't a standard that should be there, because if we're just tolerant to everything, that's pure chaos.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of good, and this is where where I started making the turn into being more conservative, or understanding where conservatives were coming from. Because I don't think that it's wrong for people like yourself or myself or anyone to say this is not appropriate for kids. Because at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily saying that they can't do it. I'm saying they shouldn't do it. And they can take that as for whatever they want. And again, I would tell my kids the same thing. I don't think that this is the right thing to do. I don't think exploiting your body to make money from it is a noble way to live. I don't think it's a moral way to live. But I'm not saying, like, you know, I will allow, maybe not my kids, but I will allow anyone else to do what they want. But I think people speaking up against it, as you said, is something that we need, because you can't have, not everything can be acceptable. And the only way that we make things unacceptable is to continue to say that this is wrong for whatever reason it might be, for religious reasons, for your own moral reasons, whatever it is. But I think there's a huge difference. And one of the things you'll hear, that I hear all the time, because I'm occasionally in TikTok debates with people, is you're trying to force this on me. And I'm saying, I'm not trying to force anything on you. I don't care what you do with your life, but it is absolutely my right to speak out against it. That is why I'm here. No, I don't want to allow you to have an abortion all 9 months. I think that's awful, you know, but you don't have to live that way. But it is my prerogative to talk about it, so people hear my side of the story, because it might just change their mind. It might be compelling enough for them to second guess their own views. And it goes for anything. And I think that's what we're lacking, is that we're lacking tolerance and understanding that this is a human being that's talking, but also that they're not necessarily just trying to force things. But this is the sticky situation, is that we have to be careful about what we see. Now I don't even want to say the wrong thing.
Just say it. Just say it. If you guys cancel my friend, okay, I'm going to write you a letter.
A very pointed letter. No, I mean, this is hard, because I don't want to be hypocritical, but I do think that there are things that we're seeing right now that is ideological creep that's meant to influence people in a way that is immoral. And I do think that needs to be spoken out against and curbed quite a bit.
Let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
What do you mean by immoral?
I just think I think trying to influence children who can't think for themselves or make an educated decision is an immoral one, because it involves manipulating an innocent life.
Why is manipulating an innocent life bad?
That's put me on the spot, Vanessa. I don't like that.
You don't have to answer it. Just think about it. I ask you this because, and this is something I recognize when we were talking about, once you're on the right, you have people on your side who are fighting with each other. We're not all technically on the same team. Is you have some people who have a different way about approaching something. So who's actually right? When someone says this is immoral and this is evil, what do you mean by that? Well, it's evil because of blank. Why is that bad? Says who? Where are you getting that from? And like, once you can answer that, you get a better understanding of where the world is heading. Because if people are saying this is immoral and this is bad because this is how we were raised, this is what society says it's okay. I mean, you don't have to go back far in history to see when that same logic was applied to do evil, terrible things to people in the world, you know? Yeah. So it's like, you have to figure out whose team are you really on? And eventually you're gonna make a choice. And I think the more you keep siding with truth, not my truth, or the truth, the more you keep siding with truth, the more people you're gonna piss off along the way. And that's okay. That's just what's gonna happen. So yeah, there's something to think about.
No, I think asking those questions are important. And I think people forget that people take those questions oftentimes as like an affront to their very existence. When they make their entire identity, one thing or another, and then people challenge that, it's as if someone's challenging your very existence on this planet. And that's really hard for them to figure out. And I think a lot of us were in that position at one point, and it's why we try to cut people out of our lives. That's why we're screaming on the internet at various things. And I think once you sort of clear that hump and understanding that my skin color is not everything that defines me, my sexuality is not everything, my gender is not everything, all that stuff allows you to see the world in a really new light and allows you to take in and actually think about these questions. Because someone other than you, like, I'm sure if someone who I disagreed with asked me those questions, I would be in a very different mindset. I might be a little bit more defensive about it, but I would still think about it because it's a fair question, and it's something that people should be asking the ones we love, we care about. Why do you think that way? Like, why is it immoral? Because it really digs down to the very basic of our beliefs and our morals and ethics. I think it's a really important thing to do. So thank you for doing that, because no one ever really challenges me with stuff.
I mean, it's, hey, like I said, it's like, for as much as we want to criticize the left for doing crazy things in the world, it's like we have to ask ourselves, well, where are we getting our standard from? Because if our standards are the same, we're following the science, we're following culture, then who's the referee there? Who's the final say that says you're right and you're wrong?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're both wrong.
Right. Oh man, it's weird. The other thing, I mean, having kids and family and caring for people other than yourselves, it totally changes, I think, people's perspective in the world. And if it doesn't, I think there's something amiss. Because I find myself getting emotional over like the smallest things, like even my child's happiness, watching them go from these innocent children to like adolescents who are like, this is going to sound stupid. I'm sitting in McDonald's in Walmart. We're just like getting something. He wanted an ice cream. It was just me and my little one, the one that was born early. And we're just sitting there, and he looks at me and goes, "Daddy, is there a restroom? I have to go potty." And I can't really describe why. It's hard to describe why that's so impactful to me, but it was, and I'll do my best. It was his recognition that he needs to use the bathroom, and then also using the word restroom and not like potty, right? So it's a clear, like, he understands language. His vocabulary is accelerating even for an almost 5-year-old. And then wanting me to go with him to do that thing. Like, all of those come together in this very perfect moment that people without children don't quite understand the gravity of. And it's just a bizarre thing to experience, because whole life I'm just, it was tough, like nothing bothers me, and then this 5-year-old just bringing me to my knees over just something. I need to go to the restroom, like, what? That's again why I think there's something more to life than just us waking up and going through this routine and then total darkness. I don't believe it. I don't believe that we experience such beautiful, miraculous things every day to just have the lights turned out. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to mention how hollow a life like that would be to believe it's just lights out. Because if that's the case, then what's the point of anything? Lights out today or tomorrow wouldn't make the difference, right?
Right. And like, that's what I mean is like, what are you living for then? Like what, especially people without kids, and you don't have kids, and I'm not disparaging you at all. I'm just saying, because I mean, you live your life in a different way, and I mean, I don't know. I want
kids when they come.
Yes, exactly. Don't rush it. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, it's a totally if anyone's responsible for my faith, it is my kids. They have shown me something that I never thought I would ever see. 10 years ago, I was nearly on the side of, none of this matters. There is no God, and now I'm like, it's like I'm sitting on the bench, like inching over to, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
But I have these great conversations with people like yourself and Carrie Smith, who have like really opened my eyes to the possibility of these things and what being, good Christian means, and, why they live their life the way they do and why you live your life the way you do. And the more I'm exposed to it, the more I understand. And it's just the more information I get. And I'm able to make a more educated decision on it.
Yeah. Has someone actually shared the gospel with you? Like, do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. Do you want me to share it with you?
Sure.
Okay, so here it is. All right. So I've actually never done this. This is the first time. So, we recognize that there's evil in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so, let me ask you this. Do you believe that people who do evil things should be held accountable for the evil things that they do?
Yes.
Okay. We can think of that from a secular world of like you going to jail because you committed bad things. Okay. Mm-hmm. The problem with this is as I asked you, how do you know that manipulating innocent children is a bad thing? And you kind of like, you're like, you didn't really have an answer. Mm-hmm. So the point of that is that we all have our own different interpretation of what is good and bad. And the Bible says that everyone has fallen short of the glory of God. Everyone has done evil, whether we want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. So now, as you said, you think people who do evil should be held accountable. Well, that's bad news, which means we're all going to be held accountable. So the good news is that the Lord who created everything, created you and your kids and this world, doesn't want any of us to perish. So he sent his son, Jesus, which it's really the same person. It's a 3-in-1 God. Mm-hmm. He sent his son, Jesus, to die on the cross. And then 3 days later, he was resurrected. And basically anyone who believes in Jesus, that he came and he died on the cross. And there's evidence for this. Like there's a whole historical rabbit hole you can go down and all the arguments. I've watched all the apologetics on this, and that's a different topic. But nonetheless, if you believe that he died for our sins and you trust and believe with all your heart, you will be saved. And so I think that's a good distinction to point out for people to understand exactly what the gospel is, because whenever I am talking to people who don't know God, I get this impression that a lot of them, and maybe I might have thought this way too, I get this impression that they think Christianity means following a set of rules and just, you got to be a good Christian, you got to got to go to church, got to read the Bible. It's not rules. It's believing in Jesus and loving him so much that you want to spend time with him. And the Bible says, if you love me, Jesus, you'll keep my commands. So it's not even just, I need to do this because I'm afraid of going to hell. It's, I love Jesus so much that I want to give him my all. And those are things that come naturally, but then after, when you start to mature in your faith, you gotta maintain it. It's just like any other person that you care about in your life. You gotta work to keep them around. You gotta be around them. Yeah. So that's really the bulk of it. All right. That was my really rough good news pitch that I shared, just so you know, and you don't think it's just like following a set of rules, because there are some people that follow the rules and you can tell that they don't have a relationship with God, because the Bible also says this: you'll know them by their fruits, meaning that if someone says they're a Christian and they're just nasty, yeah, it's like, Are you really though? Like you can tell it. It comes off of you. It's a thing. So yeah, that's the gospel.
That's really good to know, because I've heard as much. Actually, in my discussion with Carrie Smith, she said something very similar to that. Um, and maybe not even realizing what she was saying, but that's I think if it was something that I ever like gave into, that my I think having that relationship with him is a much easier thing than abiding all these like weird rules, is because I know that if I put this, if if I put God at the very top of the pecking order, even above my kids and my wife, like I would live a very true, purposeful, good life. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like I do understand that, and that's the thing, is like I understand now where a lot of religions come from when they talk about this stuff, and it's comforting to know that most people are just good, like God-fearing people, but like they're living their life in a relationship with God, not necessarily in this sort of perverse way that I think the news likes to paint religion.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are people who are, um, you know, I don't know how to say it exactly, but they're using it as a tool to better themselves, not better the relationship with, between themselves and God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's even the right way to say it, but that's what it seems. It seems more self-serving,
Yeah.
not to, broaden their relationship with others and actually have a better connection with God.
Yeah, well, that's also, why Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through me. So when you get all of these other religions, people seem to think, and not necessarily you, but people seem to think that they're all valid and they,
Yeah.
they all lead to the same destination. And they don't. The Bible is pretty clear on this. It's me or nothing else.
Right.
And so even the people who take on religion as a way of bettering themselves, a lot of these world religions are based on works. So they think the amount of good things I do will guarantee me eternity with God. And that's, first of all, it's impossible to do that. Because there are sometimes we have the best intentions. I'm like, I'm going to read the Bible every single morning. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to pray, a few times a day. And then I just have my moments and I'm like, I haven't read the Bible in a couple of days, haven't prayed recently. It's very difficult. Like and so all that to say, it's like with a relationship with Jesus, he just wants your heart. He wants to be in a relationship with you, and then together you guys will work on the other stuff. It's like before I came to Christ, after Graeme shared the gospel with me, I was like a total pothead. And I was like, I'm gonna start reading the Bible, but I'm not gonna go to church because like I want to memorize the whole Bible first. I still haven't finished the whole Bible.
Yeah.
I want to memorize the whole Bible first, and I was just thinking in my mind like I had to quit smoking pot before I came to Christ. And if we were to do that, we would never get to that point of humbling ourselves and asking for forgiveness from the Lord. It's almost like when people say, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to start my diet next week. Just go now. Just go now.
Start now. What's the holdup? Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Yep. No, I think that a lot, just about everything that I've been doing is, and in the past I was chasing this like perfect moment, and even chasing perfection, and that wasn't serving me because I was never starting what I was doing. I kept talking about it, like, oh, I'm going to get there, I'm going to do it. And like I was saying pre-show, like I need to just go and do it. I have to stop convincing myself not to do something because I'm not quite ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because that is these moments of like true growth, that because part of the learning curve is getting over the fact that I have an excuse to not start. And that is something that I think that's the biggest reason people don't ever start anything, because they're like, well, not today, tomorrow, because I'm tired today. It's like, no, that's the point.
Yeah.
No one cares that you're tired. Your body doesn't care that you're tired. Just get it done. And it's amazing how many facets of life that applies to, and how it's important to just get off your ass and start, because nobody's waiting for you. The world's not waiting for you.
Yep.
you know? And that, yeah, it's a really, but it's hard. It's not for everyone. And that's that. But then again, that is the point, is that the person you were wasn't going to do it, but that's not the person you're trying to be. And you need to start right now and stop waiting for that sign, because it's not coming. It's in here. So I don't know. I think through all of this, I've just realized like how difficult life is, but how important it is to not have an easy life. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How do you become an overcomer if there's nothing to overcome?
Right. Yeah. And how would anything even taste good, right? Like, if you don't have the sour, how would you understand the sweet? It's just those types of things there where
exactly,
like, how could I ever experience true joy if I haven't like fallen on my face?
See, you get it. You get it.
No, I mean, well, thank you, first of all, for one, being a great friend, and being willing and able to join me. I know you have a busy weekend ahead, and even busier next week with the premiere of your documentary. Again, those who can support, on Monday, December 18th in Moscow, Idaho, they're doing the premiere of the documentary Gothix, which is about my friend Gothix here. So those of you who are here, if you're not able to make it to Moscow, Idaho, make sure you check out, it's Lore TV, correct?
Lore.tv.
Lore.tv, with code, let me
Gothix.
put it in here again, code Gothix, to get your, is it 10% off?
10% off, and that's also how we get paid. Yes.
And this is one of those moments that I think people need to support independent artists. We talk about this a lot in my channel, with the Ripaverse and all the other Iron Age creators out there. We're not just supporting mainstream artists, we're supporting independent artists. And it's really important that this is one of those times that we need to support a filmmaker like Graeme Wilson. He is very deserving of everything that's coming to him. The film is amazing. I've been able to watch it. And I said, I was emotional through most of it. It's a great lesson for everyone who's looking to get into content creation, understanding what may happen, but also how to overcome these hardships and pull yourself through. So Gothix, thank you for your struggle in a way, but showing us that we don't have to give up and we can overcome these obstacles. What do you have coming up that people can experience? But I mean, obviously the film premiere. Anything else that you want to chat about?
Yeah, I mean, the film is really the only. I mean, it's a big thing. Aside from that, man, I don't even know. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm in this transitionary period with my content where I'm like, what am I supposed to do, Lord? What am I doing here? So yeah, yeah, just follow me on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, and thank you for inviting me again.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping to get back out east, and it sucks because I live in Utah. I'm just south of you, but it's like a 9-hour drive up there. And if you guys are doing the premiere on a Friday, I'd be able to make the excuse, but a Monday and a Tuesday is tough.
Yeah.
For me. But again, thank you for sharing that with me and allowing me to watch it ahead of time and being able to talk about it and promote it in this way, because it really is special. And when I do get back out east, I want to get back, get together with you and your husband, and share a beer, share some good stories. I know 2024 is going to be great, gracious to a lot of people. You're no exception. Keep up the good work, and thank you again. Thank you, chat, for being here, and thank you for everyone who's listening on other platforms. It's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of great streams coming up with a lot of great people to end this year and also start 2024. So please keep an eye out for those. Subscribe to this channel if you're new. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody next time. Bye-bye.